One kid said, Mom, why don't you train teachers? I turned to my husband and I said, you're an entrepreneur. Deliver me on a device and everyone will have me as a tutor. Go do that next. And so he said, well, actually, the technology's there, artificial intelligence. And I said, great. Do this for me now. Do this for every child. He said, I'm not going to do it. You can do it. And I said, I'm not starting a company. You start a company. I've supported you for decades. Chicken pot pie is suddenly cold. And I said, I'm not going to do it. You do it. And then I look at my kids that are looking at me like I've raised them on Gloria Steinem and strong female leads. And all of a sudden I say, I will. And I'll start tonight. I sat at the dinner table that night. I wrote my vision, my mantra, and my core values.
Welcome to the podcast where motherhood meets reinvention. I'm your host, Sharon Macey, and this is Mom to More. I'll be speaking with remarkable moms who have embraced the art of transformation, crafting their more by leveraging the skills they hone as stay-at-home moms. They'll share their experiences, struggles, and successes as they return to a former career, pursued a passion or hobby, or charted an entirely new path, giving you the clarity, motivation, and inspiration to help you answer the question, what do you want to do when your kids grow up? Before we jump in, feeling that itch for something more? I've got you. Grab my free guide, 6 Ways to Reinvent Yourself Beyond Motherhood at momtomore.com. It's fast, it's free, and yep, it's in the show notes too. Welcome back to a new episode of Mom to More. Okay, if you are a mom thinking, I am too old to start something new, do not press the pause button, because my next guest is going to have you saying, yes, I can do this. Deb Mallin is a mom, educator, literary specialist, and founder of Mighty Doodle, an educational app designed to teach every child, especially those with learning differences, how to read, write, and spell the way their brain learns. And I love that. With over 36 years of experience as a teacher, interventionalist, and advocate for children with dyslexia, Deb has worked with thousands of families across the learning spectrum, from those raised in shelters with nothing but a borrowed book to those navigating the pressures of privilege. A mother of 3 grown sons, one of whom struggled with dyslexia and attention challenges, Deb brings both professional and personal experience to her beautiful mission. Mighty Doodle was born from Deb's unwavering belief that every child has unlimited potential. Amen to that. And a right to evidence-based instruction rooted in the science of reading. Through joyful design, a relentless commitment to equity, and a buy one, give one model, she is helping to close the literary gap, one child, one session, and one breakthrough at a time. Deb's leadership blends heart, humor, and high expectations, and she continues to champion the idea that when you teach a child how they learn, you change everything. And no surprise here, folks, Deb was also a stay-at-home mom. Welcome, Deb. I'm so thrilled to chat with you today.
Moved by your introduction. Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you. Well, we have to give a shout out to Mom 2.0, which is where we recently met. And you and I just clicked. I think we met the first night outside on that beautiful lawn. And I am so excited to share your inspiring story. So let's jump in. Okay. I always start with my essential mom question. And that is, we know you have 3 boys, but where did you raise them?
All 3 of our sons were raised in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Terrific. And your time as a stay-at-home mom, was it intentional or to lean into family life, or was it something that it just happened? What did that look like for you?
You know, full transparency, something we covered on our first date, sort of what our aspirations were, who we wanted to be when we grew up. I met my husband when I was a junior in college. Yes, we're quickly approaching 35 years married. So we made the choice, and it was a wonderful choice. I have no regrets about being home. In fact, I think that the years raising my son, they weren't even really a pause. They were more of a recalibration. It was a time for me to observe their lives, my husband's lives. I watched how my children learned. I watched different systems, how they failed. And I got to do it all while loving, creating structure, and sort of a curiosity about everything like my children were experiencing. And I think, frankly, that is where, though my agency was there, it was recalibrated.
I really love that perspective, Deb. I haven't heard that, and it's so true.
Yeah, I think motherhood was a masterclass for me in leadership.
Yeah.
It wasn't a detour. It was the master class of mother.
Yeah. Well, all right. So you know what? You just gave me a perfect segue into my next question, and that is, let's talk about those mom years, because I know that it will resonate with all of our listeners, because most of us have been where you are. The masterclass in leadership. I think it's a masterclass in life, actually.
Right. Because you're basically a CEO.
Yes.
You are everything to everyone 24/7. They're beautiful and wonderful, and it's a full-time job, and they're the worst little employees because they don't take time off. They mom.
Yeah.
And that's the joy, that's the privilege, that's the pain, that's the pressure. And it was finite, right? Because
Yeah.
then one day it was over.
And it goes so fast. The days are slow, but the years go fast.
That's what we say in Minneapolis. Raising children goes by one slow winter day at a time.
Yes.
I remember bringing big wheels into a room in our house in winter because they needed to get out the energy. 3 boys is a lot of energy.
No kidding.
Of all kinds. At one point, I had talked to you about how it prepared me for life, and I referenced my boys in a meeting. Do you want me to share
Sure.
that? So I'm in a meeting. It's early on. I'm sort of back in business mode, and I'm in a meeting with a gentleman who is a unique individual, and he is just, can I say rude? He was rude.
Yeah.
There were other people, and I mean, he was having a bad day, so I gave him grace. He took a phone call at some point. It was social, and then he leaned back again. And then he just came at me again and again. And I remember doing like what I did with my teenage sons. I opened my arms up like this. I sort of leaned back, and I said, I don't know what's happening with you, but I have to tell you, I raised 3 sons. I have a tough skin. So there's a part of me that just wants to say to you, bring it, right? Just bring it. I mean, and he was stunned into silence. And I realized that was my power. My secret power was that I'd been a mom. So I thank my boys for that. Now my adult sons, I thank them.
So well said. I mean, that would probably fall under like a, sort of challenges. So thank you for that, because so often we forget how powerful we are as moms, as women, and we have to be reminded of that. And so, yeah, I mean, I feel the same way. I'm at the point now where it's like, you can't say anything I haven't already heard, and you can't say anything that's probably going to shock me either.
Right. Because with wisdom comes greater compassion, but it also, you've got enough life experience that you know how to be relentless when you need to be. I mean, that's how I talk about our product, right? I say Mighty Doodle is compassionately relentless.
Right. So I want you to talk about your private practice, because from what I can tell, you have this theme of compassion running through what you do and who you are.
Another really rewarding time in my life was working with underserved children and their families. I continue to do that to this day, and I hope I'm doing it well into my next. They invigorate me. They energize me. Watching light bulb moments for children who are breaking the code, learning to read, write, and spell is one of the most extraordinary experiences of my life. It's to see them light up is a gift. To know that you have just worked with them to change their own trajectory, it never gets old. The only bittersweet part is when I know the graduation, I want to move them through, right? Good teachers don't fill seats, we move them through. When I know the end is nearing, because they've broken that code, they're ready to fly, their confidence is up, their shoulders open. I mean,
how beautiful is that, to see that breakthrough in a child?
It's beautiful. And in the parents who are watching their child become this butterfly, right? And they're going to fly out of my office. But I start preparing them the weeks before. So we know, like, this is how much is left. And I think I'm guessing it'll be this long. And I'm also preparing myself And I would tell you that 99.9% of the time, after I see them off and we have the little going away party and I close the door, I have a little bit of a loss
Mm,
and a sadness in my happiness
yeah.
because I have grown to love and nurture these children that I've been entrusted with. So I just can't imagine not working with children. Children have been a part of my life always, first my own, and now
Yeah.
the privilege of working with others.
That's so beautiful. Hey, Deb, we are going to take a quick break. And when we return, we are going to jump into Mighty Doodle, how it all started. And folks, it is a great story. So don't go away. And now a quick word from my sponsor, Ally Shoes. I gotta tell you, these are some of the most comfortable shoes I have ever worn. They're designed by women for women, like finally, right? And engineered with perfectly placed padding, so I can literally wear these all day. And I cannot say that for other brands I've worn. And I'm not the only one giving positive reviews. In Style, Business Insider, and CNN are all saying the same thing. Oh, and they have a really cool origin story as well. So flats, heels, boots, you name it, they have it. Ally is letting me share the love with all of you. Head on over to Ally, that's ALLY.NYC, where new customers and listeners of the pod will get $40 off your first pair of heels. All their heels, like Classic, Kitten, Bold Block, Sexy Slingbacks, with special code MOMTOMORE40, and 10% off your first pair of boots and flats, so 10% off of each, with special code MOMTOMORE10. Ally is reimagining how comfort and function support women every day, and I love that. Thanks to Ally for sponsoring this episode. Okay, we're back. All right, Deb. Mighty Doodle was born from a family dinner, right? So take us back to that moment, how that happened, and the family dynamic around that.
So I had my private practice and I worked with paying clients, parents, families in the morning, and then pro bono in the afternoon, right? And I had it really carved out and I found the balance because I was still raising the 3 boys. But all of a sudden, the middle of that day was shrinking and there was less time. You know, I'm working a lot of hours. Something's got to give when you make that transition from
Right.
full-time parent to career. A lot of people
And
jump.
also, we'll talk about the fact the boys were older, right? So they were
The,
in school. You had that flexibility in your
yeah,
schedule. You had the ability to do that, right?
right. And you still have to allocate where those hours are coming from. I had a wonderful mentor who said, great, what are you going to give up? Right?
Mm.
Because those hours will take over other time. What are you giving up? Make sure you plan that. As you
And the
jump
mom
in,
in you's like, I'm not going to give up anything. I'm just going to
not
tack it on, right? Yeah.
exact. I can do everything. Watch me juggle and balance.
Until we can't. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, until you're on the floor and you're, in my case, my Lon's nightgown, like, oh, but anyway, so
Yeah.
I come home and I rush in and I serve reheated Costco chicken pot pie. And one of my children says, oh, goody, Costco chicken pot pie again. And something hit me. And so I said, excuse me, not my best parenting moment. I was
Right.
really angry and they saw it. And I said, you have dinner. And then one of my other children said, Mom, you're working too many hours. You got to stop taking kids, Mom. This isn't normal. This is not okay. It went on for a little bit and I turned to my son, Jeremy, the child, as you referenced with dyslexia. He has dysgraphia and deficits in his attention. I turned to him and I said, and you of all people, you of all people who have had all of the help you've needed to thrive, you would tell me to take fewer children? And then one kid said, Mom, why don't you train teachers? To which I replied, I love children. I want to work with children. And then I turned to my husband and I said, you're an entrepreneur. Deliver me on a device and everyone will have me as a tutor. Go do that next. Right? I'm sort of throwing it his way.
Right.
Because he's been pretty silent at that dinner. And so he said, well, actually, the technology's there. Artificial intelligence. And I lit up like a light bulb and I said, great, do this for me now. Do this for every child. And he said, I'm not going to do it. You can do it. And I said, I'm not starting a company. You start a company. I've supported you for decades. Now my kids are watching this play out. The chicken pot pie is suddenly cold. And,
Yeah.
and,
Because this is getting really good between mom and dad.
right.
Okay.
And they're
Yeah.
watching. And
Yeah.
I'm aware they're watching at some point. And I said, I'm not going to do it. You do it. And he said, I'm not going to do it. You do it. And then I look at my kids that are looking at me like I've raised them on, Marlo Thomas, Free to Be You and Me. And I've dropped Gloria Steinem and I've mentioned, strong female leads. And they're looking
Right.
at me. And all of a sudden I say, I will. And I'll start tonight. You all can
Darn
do
it.
this.
Watch me. Right.
And my
Yeah.
husband literally handed me 2 books and I sat at the dinner table that night. Right? And I wrote my vision, my mantra, and my core values. It literally started that night as I'll show you.
He was that kick in the pants that you needed to do this, like
Yeah.
your whole family was.
Yes. And I said at some point, now you'll finally have me around more. Right? Which was the antithesis of what happened. That became a 10-year journey. I was busier than ever before.
Right.
And having the time of my life, which, by the way, is also really good for children, right? To see parents thriving in a new phase of their lives, regardless of age.
100%, as I've experienced. So you were really like the reluctant CEO.
Oh, my goodness.
Right?
If you could bet on anyone, I was a Luddite. I would have a hit if I had to update my phone. And then flash forward, I'm at Apple. I think have gone 4 times. We were chosen as, education app to watch to change lives over 67 countries, thousands of entrants. And I'm at Apple and I'm in disbelief, right? Like, oh my gosh, I went from, threadbare Woolrich corduroy skirt in a classroom to a boardroom. And now I'm, steps away from Tim Cook, who gives me a shout out on social media, and my husband and my sons are texting me as though like I've suddenly become an Academy Award winner. And it was this surreal moment because you don't know where the path is going to lead you.
And I would also say, take that moment that you just shared about Tim Cook giving you a shout out. You did this, right? Everything that you've learned, and I want to talk about like mom skills, okay? The skills that you honed and fine-tuned while you were with your boys, and how those translated into this incredible company that you have founded and that Tim Cook is giving you shout outs over.
Yeah, Kim, for my 4th child, as my children refer to Mighty Doodle.
Yeah.
Well, all the skills I honed as a CEO, as a parent CEO of the family, the woman who headed the house, serial volunteer, fully engaged. It really was the doorway to everything else. So, for example, I'll give you a great example. You take that first child home from the hospital. And they don't come with a book or a manual. I mean, you can read plenty of things and you can call your mom and your mother-in-law. You can call a million people. But at 3:00 in the morning, when you've got, I Love Lucy or some show, silently playing to keep you company because it was the 10th feeding on the 10th day, you literally have kind of jumped without a parachute. And so once you do that, I mean, that to me was the most intimidating thing. And I was a nanny. I mean, I was like, I got this, but I didn't. But I pushed through. And then in conjunction with that, there's this part of your brain that allows you to multitask when you have a baby. I know we talk a lot about how healthy and unhealthy it is for multitasking, but at that time, you learn how to balance the baby on your hip, answer a call, make sure the stove doesn't boil over, stop the dog from, licking the tray of the baby.
That they shouldn't be licking. Yeah.
Right. And it's a short amount of time, but you're able to multitask, right? So you have that skill within you from being a mother. Then there is the executive function, which I think is funny if you watch a show like Mad Men or anything modern. Career people had these executive assistants. They were basically their executive function. I would argue it's because many of these most brilliant, powerful people had learning differences, so they needed people to manage everything.
Oh, that's an interesting.
Yeah.
That's an interesting observation. Yeah.
How are you keeping your calendar? How are you prioritizing? How are you moving along in your day? How are you breaking things down that are big and enormous in your brain into steps? Who knows? That's what I see a lot. they argue 85% of the most successful entrepreneurs are those people with learning differences, dyslexia, ADHD, dysgraphia, the spectrum, autism, all of those things. And so then imagine these people having children who have the same issues. So now you're juggling not just whatever the thriving adults in your family have going on, whether neurodivergent or not, in a 2-parent home, and then all of the children who have inherited both of your skills. So you're balancing all of this. And then on top of it, you learn how to go sleepless nights, which isn't healthy. But I recall vividly a day in my office where furniture was moved in. There were 3 people at the office plus the movers. I laid down on a rug in my office because I was exhausted, and I slept through the move.
So they just placed the furniture around you. Okay.
In the next door room, I had the door shut in the office, but the rest of the office furniture was delivered. And I only can remember being that tired when I had our children. And once you survive sleeplessness, that doesn't build resilience. If motherhood doesn't build resilience,
resilience, grit, grace, wisdom. Yes.
All of the things you need in life.
Yeah. I remember hearing I think there was a Harvard Business Review that talked about the fact that the skills gained in motherhood are the skills that are most admired and sought after in corporate leadership roles.
Well, look at the level of success among women in the C-suite.
Yeah,
Bet
for
on
sure.
a woman. Bet on a woman.
I always maintain that if the women were running the world, we wouldn't have war, but that's a whole other discussion. So,
I agree with you.
Right. So tell me about how has your company grown? How has Mighty Doodle grown? How many students are you reaching?
Well, we started with 1, and then eventually the first 1,000, and then 10,000. We continue to grow, and will continue to grow in the coming years. We were initially, as I shared, we were only available in schools, and we were dealing with virtual learning and AI prior to COVID. So we were having conversations about integrating mobility or movement and mindfulness long before it was sort of a buzzword, right? We were ahead of our time 10 years ago. People didn't know what AI is or AI was. Now everybody knows what it is. And so we pivoted to go directly to families with a changing landscape in schools. Schools can only do so much. We love teachers. And we love
so you're now direct to consumer.
Parents can download us in 2 minutes on their phone or iPad. I prefer the iPad because it gives kids more surface area, but iPhone is for busy families on the go. I'm not a pro screen person. I've been very vocal about it, but appropriate screen time for learning is a good thing. So I justify Mighty Doodle for screen time. And making this accessible to parents no matter where they are has been critical for families.
Okay, I love that.
You download it, you buy it on the iPad. The first week we say try it because we know.
That's right. You download the program onto your iPad, and then you have a 1-week free trial.
Yep.
Okay.
And then if you buy it for the year, it is up to 3 children. So I don't want to penalize parents, right? We're not going to gouge parents and say, well, for every child on Mighty Doodle, you'll have to buy a separate membership. It covers the cost of 3 children. And then another Mighty Doodle is gifted to an underserved population, up to 3 children. And that includes the parent portal and the printable flashcards and the custom.
And so with 1 subscription for the year, and you're incredibly reasonable. How much are you for the year?
We are below $149. So that's incredible. Based on the cost of a tutor in Minneapolis. So I hear it's more expensive out in California, out east, Florida.
Yeah, for sure.
Over $200. So
it's at least
for the year.
For an hour. Yeah. But what's beautiful about this, Deb, is that when one family buys one, you can help up to 6 children. And I think that's so fantastic.
That's impact, right?
Yeah.
I don't want applause. I want impact.
You want impact. Yeah.
I don't want accolades. I want change. I want to close the literacy gap.
Yeah. And I mean, what a beautiful mission that you have. And I love that. What do your boys think about all this?
They actually, as adult sons, they've each told me separately they're very proud of me, which is really nice to hear. I was their first best friend, right?
Mhm.
But, there are years where I'm not your friend because I'm the compassionately relentless mother who says, put your clothes away and do your homework.
Right.
And the car has a curfew, right? And so it wasn't a popularity contest. None of this has been, but for them to acknowledge as adult men, two who are in business, who want to help, is an extraordinary full circle moment. It
Yeah.
is, that's been a gift, an unexpected gift.
But you've done something extraordinary, and they are rightfully acknowledging what you have grown from nothing to where you are today. So that
Yes.
deserves the applause, and they're right to give it to you.
And they
Absolutely.
deserve credit because if not for them.
Yeah. No, because you started with a child who had those learning issues. When we first met, we were talking about getting older and, retirement and things like that. You had a really unique take on retirement and aging. What
Oh,
is that?
I feel younger and more vibrant than I did in my 40s. And I remember hearing a lot of women say it gets better. And I kept thinking, does it? Does
I'm not
it?
sure. Yeah.
And so, I like that I start my day quietly with my coffee and then I pop over and lift weights among a bunch of 20 and 30-year-olds. Am I lifting as much as them? No. Do I care? No. But I'm energized by them and I'm energized by the people I work with of all ages. They have incredible insights and I learn from them every day. I'm energized by the senior women in my life
Mhm.
who've given me so much advice and guidance. So I'm getting started now.
Yeah.
That's
And I
how.
love that. For the younger women who might be listening, it is never too late to discover what it is that you love to do. It is never too late in your life to try something new. And also you talked about getting on social media.
Oh
So
my
you
gosh.
yeah, so talk about your social media journey because I, raised my hand, avowed tech boob. But you have just jumped into social media, and I did too at an older advanced age.
So that was tricky. My kids encouraged me to do it. I tried many times before I hit record. It was hours for the first post, right?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I'm kind of doing it and I'm getting better. And I get a text from my son. I don't want to get him in trouble at work, but it's the middle of the workday. And I read it and it says, Mom, take down your post. And he explains why. And I said, ooh, I didn't know. I take it down. Next day, I put up another one. Then I get a phone call. Same son, same message. Mom, take it down now. And I panic and I say, I forgot how to take it down. I forgot. And he said, share your screen right now. Share me. Here's what we're going to. And I thought, finally, I'm the one yelling help. And they're all coming. And now it's been a few weeks and they send a little encouragement text like, good post, Mom. Keep going. You're
Right.
killing it.
So you've learned. Yeah, you learn what to say, you learn what to do. And you also realize that nothing is so precious that if you have a thought, you just put it out there and it's fine, right? Because
Mistakes are happening
yeah.
every day that ends in Y, and then we're learning from them.
Yeah, yeah. So I have a question for you. What is your advice to other moms who are in the process of going from dreaming to doing? What would you say to them?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. Okay, keep a journal because it allows you to put your thoughts down. Even though you probably say, I have no time for anything, if you keep a journal, it allows you to track yourselves and hold you accountable.
Good idea.
Another idea, I don't even know how many successful women, some of whom, I worked with their children, so they sort of mentored me over the last 10 years. They told me this and I didn't do it, but I do it now. You block on your calendar things related to your health before you block anything else. Period. No wiggle room because there will always be something. And slowly I watch the things fall off. Right. Which is another reason why I've never given anyone control over my calendar. I did it once. And then they were prioritizing things. But I'm no good to anyone. Any entrepreneur who doesn't set healthy boundaries early on is destined to bottom out.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think you have to bottom out. It's going to be a struggle. It is.
Right.
If it were easy, everybody would do it.
Right.
Right? It is the resilience and the grit and the ability to separate your emotional brain from your intellectual brain, which you can do while you're journaling and read things over. Watch your patterns. Take care of your health.
Mm-hmm.
We get one incredible life. And it can be charmed and difficult.
And both at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. And we've all been there. I think if you're a mom, you have experienced that.
Right. And the wisdom, now you have that wisdom to know how to balance that. Yeah. And balance, we talk about balance. I'm sure you've heard this before. People forget, like if you're doing a balance, a pose or a bicycle, you lean a little bit this way, you lean a little bit that way. Eventually you're in the middle, but then you're going in 10 backwards. And that's the gift of balance.
Right.
That's the beauty and the elegance of wisdom and learning that as we go, which you obviously have.
Thank you. Thank you. But I love what you just said. And that is beautiful mom wisdom. So thank you for that. Deb, our time is drawing to a close. How fun to connect with you today. Thank you for that. I have a question that I ask all of the amazing moms that I have the privilege of interviewing. And that is, since this is the Mom to More podcast, Deb Mallin, what is your more?
More children served, more freedom to teach all children how they learn, a more literate nation, a more beautiful life for everyone, for all the littles.
That's beautiful. Thank you for that. Please tell our listeners where they can find you online, where they can find your company. Folks, everything is going to be in the show notes. So just throw it out there and tell everyone how they can connect with you.
You can find more at mightydoodle.com. We're on Instagram. You can follow us there. We are on TikTok. LinkedIn. If any of you moms want to connect on LinkedIn, women lift up other women. They hold the ceiling. They push you through the doors. So please feel free to connect with me personally on LinkedIn and follow Mighty Doodle and download Mighty Doodle and tell everyone you know who knows and loves children. And for anyone you know who's neurodivergent or not, want to just get your child ahead.
Yeah.
Mighty Doodle on their iPad and or iPhone.
Great advice. Great advice. And on LinkedIn, you are Deb Mallin, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay. All the links are going to be in there. Thank you for your time today, my friend. I mean, what an inspiring conversation. I just love where you're coming from and the goodness that you put out into the world and how you are paying it forward for generations. So thank you for that.
Thanks for letting me share with you.
I'd like to read another 5-star review from Allison, who wrote, "This podcast is a breath of fresh air in a sea of podcasts. Sharon is so good at what she does, and her guests are amazing. I always leave feeling inspired." Well, thank you, Allison. And if y'all keep leaving those 5-star reviews, I'll keep reading them. Before I sign off, a quick favor. Following the Mom to More pod means you'll never miss an episode, and it really helps the show to grow. And if you'd be willing to leave a 5-star rating and review and share an episode with another mom, I'd be super grateful and appreciate your support.